The sound you hear is what some experts claim to be a Bigfoot scream. Recorded in the state of Washington by a group of campers in 1971, it is regarded as the highest quality audio of the creature ever captured.
Hello! Welcome to Bigfoot Real Encounters. We're glad to have you stop by. We'd also like to take this time to invite you to share your encounter. You can send your stories to the email bfrealencounters@mail.com, where we will feature your story with all of the respect that it deserves. So send your stories in, bfrealencounters@mail.com. We look forward to hearing from you and your great stories soon. Well, hello everybody. Welcome back to Bigfoot Real Encounters. This is your host, Chris. As we continue going state by state, we're still up in the northeast section of the United States. There seem to be Bigfoot everywhere. The Sasquatch people have really shown up in all of our states and in many other countries around the world. And it's only by us people telling our encounters that we know about them. For some reason, local governments and agencies wish to bury the subject, like they have buried the subject of UFOs. That is, until last May of 2020, when the Pentagon of the United States came out and said that the UFOs are real and made some disclosures along those lines. And a couple times since then, the U.S. Navy has made public statements concerning the UFOs that they have encountered. I wonder how long it'll be before they do the same thing with the Sasquatch. I guess we'll have to wait and see. But until then, we the people are giving out the evidence that we have collected and have experienced, and we're sharing it ourselves. We don't need to wait on those people. We the people have the power and many things in this country, and we're going to keep it. So we will tell our stories amongst each other. We will present our facts, things that we've noticed, and we'll gather our own evidence and share it. So if you've had an encounter, please share it. Many of you have had encounters and you've held on to them for years and years and years. I encourage you, now is the time to get them out. It is best time probably ever to share an encounter. It is more accepted now than ever before because of the popularity of the subject, and channels like mine. People are coming forth with their stories at breakneck speed. So it is more widely accepted than ever before, less likely to receive a pushback and ridicule. So send in your stories. Let's take a look here at the small state of Rhode Island. Yes, even Rhode Island has some Bigfoot encounters, and we're going to take a look at those today. Okay, our first encounter here took place in the year 1974 in Washington County, Rhode Island. And it reads, while attending URI in the fall of 1974, I would stay at my girlfriend's mother's house on weekends because I only had a 5-day meal book plan. It was Sunday evening, about 10 p.m., when I decided to head back to school on my 10-speed bike. Very dark in the area because it being mostly wooded, country-like setting, but yet city. I was going down her street and noticed my front center pole brake needed to be adjusted. I stopped under a street light at the end of her street, which is an intersection, to adjust the brake. Directly in front of me was a small field that sloped down and away from me. pitch black background, tall grass, and a few bushes being lit up by the streetlight. Typical New England oak, maple, and pine trees. As I was fixing my brake, I began hearing very loud footsteps of a biped coming from the field on the slope side. More like a crushing thud. I could hear the actual compression being placed, like someone dropping a heavy metal ball or rock on the ground. I looked up to see if I could see anything and just said to myself, "It's nothing," and went back to fixing my brake. I noticed it was getting closer and felt very apprehensive. The sound was coming in my direction. All of a sudden, this dog started barking like crazy. I could hear the chain snap as it either tries to attack or get away from something. I said to myself, "It's time to go." As I started, I turned left to head north. From out of the darkness steps into the streetlight this white-looking gorilla. The legs present themselves, then the body as it comes to rest on its knuckles. 20, maybe 25 feet away, directly across the street from me, perhaps 6 feet tall, maybe 400 pounds or more. Massive arms that went straight down to its knuckles. Knees slightly bent. The head is higher in the back connected to the neck, all in one mass. The face dark, deep, strong, but primate. The eyes are close together and set deep in the face. The nose and mouth are human-like. Its nose is wide around the mouth, black hair that went down on each side. It looked up with its head and chest to see me, eyeball to eyeball, as I looked back, trying to see if this thing is real. Human-like in appearance, the face is not like a primate, but has a distinct animal presence. The eyes are close together. I was never so scared in my life and knew that had I stayed, I don't think I would have survived the attack. The way it was positioned gave it an explosive start as it decided to chase me down the street. My heart was pounding out of my chest. My eyes had tears in them, and with all my might, I pedaled as it ran on two legs, then down on its knuckles, then back up again. Perhaps for 10 yards, I remember how long its hair on its arms moved with each reach. I thank God I was in first gear. A good 5-second chase and it was all over. It had stopped in the middle of the street, just swaying back and forth. Turned and just cleared this rock wall all in one motion from a grass sidewalk. At the top of the hill, I began riding in circles. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't comprehend the situation I was in. I knew one thing: I was not riding back. I cut through her grandmother's yards and made it back to her house. Not trying to look crazy or anything, they asked me what was wrong. I told them what happened and agreed that it was best to go back in the morning. Well, yeah, I don't think I would have continued that. If that thing had appeared in the middle of the road, I would have went back to the house too and said, yeah, I'm waiting for morning. So there's a scary encounter right there, folks. Before we get into the next encounter here, I do want to take a moment and encourage you to like, share, and subscribe. Take a look at the links that we have down in the description below, and also leave some comments down below. If you have had a similar experience, don't hesitate to send them in to bfrealencounters@mail.com. That's BF, like Bigfoot, realencounters@mail.com. We can keep it anonymous for you if that's what you need. We can use your full name, or I can just call you Bob, or any other fake name that you want to do. It doesn't matter. The important thing is to get the information out to the public so that we know about these things and all the details concerning it. The details are important. They give us clues into what these beings are, what they're like, how they react to different things, gives us insight into the different personalities. All the information is very helpful so that when we have encounters, we can deal with it with as much information as possible and as educated and informed as we can possibly be to minimize any dangers that could possibly come from this. All right, let's take a look at this next one. And it looks like we have another older one from the year 1978 in Washington County, Rhode Island. And let me see here, it reads, I've told very few people this story for fear they might think I'm crazy. Taking the time to report this is because of a recent entry a friend of mine who knew my story told me about. My story takes place in Charlestown, Rhode Island in the late 1970s. My mother and father and I lived in a wooded area abutting the Indian Cedar Swamp and property owned by United Nuclear, which probably comprises several thousand acres. The property surrounding our home was mixed white Atlantic juniper swamp, scarlet, red, and white oaks with old-growth white pine stands mixed in, with a dense understory of briars, mountain laurel, and blueberry bush. We lived off of a road with 3 houses on it. The houses were all built close to the entrance of this development. The road was part of a series of roads that were put in at the start of a development. Now the roads were oiled gravel and had been left to grow in after years of little or no use. It looked like the developer had started and went belly up. These roads were great to ride bikes on or take an evening cruise on after bringing my father dinner at his second job. My mother drove a baby blue Mustang Mach 1, and she would drive around the roads with me looking at deer before we retired to our home for the evening. As a kid, I remember this being a highlight to the evening. I was at the time maybe 8 years old, and my mother and I, on this particular night in the late 1970s, commenced our ride around the roads to see if we could see any deer. It had been raining earlier, with thunder and lightning mixed in. Now it was just raining. We were rounding a corner on one of the roads that paralleled the Indian Cedar Swamp, and as we started downward, we noticed the road was obstructed by a large, blown down oak tree. The tree had green leaves. This makes me think it was summer or early fall. The green leaves on it, so it had recently come down. We guessed maybe in the storm earlier, possibly lightning. The road was very narrow, and the brush along the side of the road made it difficult to back the car around to turn around. The rain was falling, but not heavy. The wipers were on. The headlights in the car were on as well. As my mother turned the front end of the car, the lights cast on the left side of the road where the tree had been broken off from its stump. We were maybe 1.5 car lengths from the stump. Beside the tall, fractured stump stood what looked like a large, white, yellowish white ape. It was maybe 6 to 7 feet tall. Its hair was long. Its face was flat. It had long, massive arms. Its head appeared to be without any neck. Its chest was broad. My mother and I froze momentarily, and the figure remained still, staring at us. My mother floored the car into reverse. I remember the terror of it all. The sound of gravel hitting inside the fender wells, the sound of the brush crushing against the car, and then the acceleration as she sped off. We were clear as to what we saw, and we have no question in our mind that we saw something or someone in ape-like shape that night. This we are certain of. We need no one to tell us what we saw. It's crystal clear. For years, we told no one. We would talk about it in our home in privacy, and even my father found this story hard to accept. We've never forgotten this, and this story would have never been told if it wasn't for someone else informing me of a similar sighting. I'm now in my early 30s, an extremely active hunter, farmer, and woodsman. I hunt deer 40 days a year in Maine, Rhode Island, Connecticut, and New Jersey. I use automated cameras which are triggered by heat. I've never seen a picture of a Bigfoot on my film. I've seen pictures of deer on my 50-acre tract of land that I would never have believed were there if I didn't see it on my film. I know every inch of my land and the surrounding property, and these mystery deer show up at all hours on my cameras, and frequently at that. How can they move right around our hunting parties in such a small area and never be seen? I'll never know. Even today, I find it hard to accept what we definitely saw. I'm not a fan of ghosts, UFOs, or even Bigfoot. I'm not sure to this day what I saw wasn't a man in a costume, dressed up, out in a rainstorm, a half mile or more from any home, waiting for my mother and me to drive down the road to give us a scare. The only thing I can say is it was a damn good costume and a good plan. We saw what we saw, and this is something I would swear to on any polygraph test, as I'm sure my mother would. Well, the eyewitness sure makes it plain that it would be rather silly for a person to go through all those lengths on a lonely road just to try and scare a mother and her son driving down a road looking for deer. The likelihood of that is rather small, shall we say. This could have been scary, but it doesn't seem like it was. They certainly remembered it. And yet they kept quiet about it for years for fear of ridicule. This is something, folks, that we need to overcome. That old saying, sticks and stones may break my bones, but name calling? That doesn't hurt me. It's just words, people. We need to say, hey, this is what I saw. I know I saw it. This is my story, my testimony. I'm telling you, I'm not lying, so back off of me. If more people were like that, we would get a lot more information from person to person about these beings, as well as many other subjects. Well, enough of that rant. This next one here is a little more recent, back in 1998 in October in Providence County, Rhode Island. And it reads, the exact date was October 15, 1998. I was training for a mountain bike race, and this was to be my last ride prior to the race. I was riding at the Black Hut Management area in Glendale, Rhode Island. Along for the ride was my 3-year-old mixed breed Shepherd Lab. It's a large dog. It was sunny but cool, and I planned to spend an hour or so breaking a sweat. As I weaved my way through the trails, I had to leash my dog to cross a street. After I unhooked him, we started up a hill toward a chasm. It's small, and kids hang around there and drink beer, have fires, etc. At the crest of the hill, I could see the top of the chasm, approximately 50 yards away. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed something that first appeared to be a dirty white blanket, perhaps hung on a small tree. Suddenly, I think it heard us. It turned as it was squatting with its back to me, saw me, stood up, and disappeared into the woods. I was shocked and could not believe what I just saw. From my vantage point, I would say the animal was white or gray, but very dirty. In no way did it resemble a man. I did not see the face clearly, but from what I did see, full rear view, although it stood fairly erect, Its gait and posture was like an ape. The arms were not long like a gorilla, and oddly, it was nowhere near 7 feet tall. I'd estimate maybe 6 feet at best. I reversed my direction and rode immediately to the top of the chasm. I looked for footprints and hair, but didn't find any. I walked a short distance in the woods in the direction where it disappeared. My heart was pounding so loud I could hear it. I knew it was nowhere in the general area because my dog was not barking. Anytime there's an animal near, fox, coyote, deer, my dog barks and will usually chase. Interesting point is that my dog never barked, and I don't think he saw, heard, or smelled it. I noticed no unusual smell in the area, and also noticed no signs of broken branches and no way to determine its direction. I've told 1 or 2 people, and in November of 1998, a friend and I, with video and digital camera, spent 2 weekends hiking in the area directly behind the chasm with no results. I also snowshoed the area after the first snow. I was starting to believe I had imagined it. In 2002, I met a hunter in a bar and asked him if he ever hunted at Black Hut. He said, yes. And once I saw a white gorilla there, I had chills and related my story. The differences were in color. He stated white, the one I saw was more gray, and said the one he saw was 8 feet tall. Still, same place, same type of sighting. What made me write this is the 2 other Rhode Island sightings seem to be similar. I wish I could have seen it longer and closer. Well, I don't know, pal. I don't know if you would have wanted to have seen it closer. Many folks have had some, shall we say, negative side effects from seeing them closer. So I would count my blessings if I were you. Goodness. But there we have it. You know, what you saw and what he saw may have been relatives. Do you ever consider that? One was larger than the other. One was a slightly different color. But maybe it wasn't the same creature. Maybe they were relatives. You never know. Just something else to consider. And once again, I'm reading these stories posted on the BFRO website. It is public domain. These people have chosen to make their encounters public. And if you are out there listening to this, and it's your story that I'm narrating here, by all means, get in touch. Send in to bfrealencounters@mail.com. Add to the story, or whatever you wish to talk about. You know, let us know. And let me know if I'm doing the story justice and making it sound as right to your experience as it can be. And if you want, you know, tell us some more details, or maybe you've had additional experiences. We'd love to hear from you. So there we go, 3 great experiences and encounters from the state of Rhode Island, the smallest state of the Union, and yet Bigfoot encounters. Isn't that something, folks? These creatures are not only in the middle of nowhere. They live on the fringes of society. Remember, be safe out there. Until the next time. Once again, another great story. Thanks for tuning in. Please share your encounter. Email us, bfrealencounters@mail.com. Your story is very important. We will treat it with the respect that it deserves. Also, be sure to smash the like button, share, and subscribe. Thanks once again. We look forward to hearing from you soon. Watch out for our next video. Maybe we'll feature yours. Have a great day.